Today we are gonna create some zaps in Vital, which you can use for effects, impacts or leads. To get notified on future simple and effective Psytrance tutorials, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. We will recreate this zap part here. I will play it once that you can listen how it sounds. So that zaps we're gonna recreate. And for that we need Vital. And we will add a low pass filter because we don't wanna go our zaps into the kick and bass. Let's choose 30 dBs and put it on about 160, but we can change it later anyways. So we have our basic preset, but before we start, I want to tell you something about the MIDI here. So let's go back to the finished one. The MIDI is quite straightforward here. It's on the kicks, and just the last two shots go a little bit denser together. So we get this very strong behavior here, and then we go a little bit faster in the end, which gives a fast movement of it. So listen to this. Compared to if we would place the shots here, the three ones which are going with the kick, for example here, then it doesn't have that strong behavior anymore. So I think it's cooler if we have the shots right on the kick, besides the last two, which we will then put into a delay and reverb and kind of like fade them out. So we have prepared here our Vital and our low cut, and now we go and create the patch. So the most important thing is, if you want to create a zap, is basically a zap is a pitch modulation. So you either like fall down or move up in pitch, and the two main parameters or the two things you can influence is how much you move down or up and how fast. And we will do this with this LFO here. So how much is basically, if we map the LFO here to the pitch, it's how much we assign to it, and also the points here. So that's how we can control kind of like the amount, and the speed is controlled by the curve, and here the note. So we can put this either to a fixed time here or to seconds, to a tempo or 2 seconds. I will put it to seconds for now, but I will explain a little bit more about that later. And then I want to turn the smoothing here almost off, and we will go with 0 phase or random phase. So we are starting at the same phase every time. You can also do phase randomizations, no problem, but I want to go without here. And at the moment we sound like this. So one thing, I want to go a little bit down. Let's go like 1 octave down here. And we will find also a good point for the modulation here. I think this was a cool setting here. And now we will make this a little bit more interesting. And one way to make it a little bit more interesting and fat is by adding unison. So let's listen to that. If we have like 2 voices but 0 spread here, and then we will detune it more. So I think this is already pretty cool. Then we will add some effects to it. So the first effect I'm gonna add is a little bit of distortion. we choose a bit crush for that. Distortion, you can break out of that kind of like smooth movement and make the sound a little bit more ugly and more interesting. And then we will add some delay. Let's go for a dotted 8 note and not so wide. I think that's already cool, maybe a little bit less feedback. And the thing how we can make it like really interesting is by adding filters. And those comp, phaser and format filters are really nice for making the sound more not so kind of like straightforward. You see that comp filter basically is a little bit like a flank, or you could use that if you want to get your zaps up. There's a little bit of ringing in this background pad. I will deactivate that for now, that we don't get annoyed by this. And now let's go back to the Zap. So we are on our filters here, and I think the flanger was quite a nice filter already, but let's try a few more. I think that one is quite cool for a Zap. It has that space station feeling to it. And as we kind of like created the basic sound for a Zap, we can also get it a little bit into the room, maybe with a chorus or with reverb. We will try both. So I think this could be nice if we want to have it more like one time, like in one shot for the atmosphere. Let's check the reverb now. Give it here kind of like a little bit of a low, remove some of the lows. Okay, I think we are quite done with the Zap. Now, to make it a little bit less static, we can do some macro automation. So basically we drag maybe the macro knob here to our frequency. Could be an interesting thing to go up in frequency. So let's go first a little bit down here. So like up in seconds. So we can play with that. We need a little bit less of that, or we could go. So let's go like this. And another thing we could modulate is the release here. I always dial it a bit back that we have a little bit more room to play. And another really interesting thing to modulate could be here the frequency. If you want to have that upwards movement, What you can also do is you can use this LFO, which modulates the pitch here, and also map it to the frequency so that it falls a little bit along with that frequency here. But you have to decide. I mean, at some point, if you modulate too many things, in my opinion, it gets a little bit ugly and not so clean anymore, the sound. But always depends what you want to go for. But now let's try with the release here. So we have now macro 1 to the frequency. Always name your stuff. Macro 2 to the release and 3 to the cutoff. And now we can go here and do some modulations. So for example, we could go up here. Maybe we also something like this, maybe. We can also take the delay time here. Here our delay feedback, for example, or we can use the mix. We can play around what is best here. And we can increase it like on the last shot so that we have a little bit of extension here, which then goes over to the next part. And we can do the same with the reverb. So we could deactivate the internal reverb here and then kind of like let it go in the reverb. So we are quite done with our Zaps here. One more thing I wanted to show you, and I will delete the automation so that we get back to our, besides maybe the feedback here is, which is nice to have it going out here. So we are now here. So let's say we have this settings here, and we can use erosion from Ableton to give it some color. So I think this adds something nice on top. And then we will add a compressor. We'll control the dynamics a bit. But before we do this, I want to check in span how we are from the frequencies here. So the first thing is we're not crossing that 100 here, which is quite good because we don't want to go into the low end. I think we can go a little bit louder also. And we will add some compression here on top that we have quite rapid shots, so maybe we go here. just to control the dynamics a bit. And I think it's quite a nice element because you can spice up your track at some points. You can add this as like one shots, or you can add that kind of like if you're transitioning over to a new part, or you can use it in the new part as an impact. There are many cool applications in Psytrance for Zaps, and many different Zaps, and I hope you liked the one we did today. If you enjoyed this video about Zaps and you want to use them as impacts in your track, then you might want to watch this video on Psytrance drops. If you haven't already signed up for my Psytrance masterclass, then you'll find more instructions in the description below.